How's it going, guys? I got my buddy Kyle here today. Recently, he was made into the Bionic Man, and so today we want to tell you the story of how that all happened. Let's go.
Subscribe now.
So Kyle, always good to see you here. Wish it could be under a little bit different circumstances. Last time you were in the Philippines, it was raining like crazy. And I just remember you're like, I'm not even going to come back until the weather is a bit better.
Yeah.
But now you've come back and, something looks a bit different, for you. Either you got a new fashion accessory or that is something broke.
It's all the rage in the U.S. now. You gotta
Right.
have a sling. Yeah.
I got it. So tell us, what happened. You came here in time for Sinulog,
Yes.
and then you were going to go to Coron. So started off at Sinulog. When did this happen? Like, how long were you here for?
All right. I came on Friday. I don't want to say before Sinulog, but during Sinulog, because
Sure.
Sinulog's kind of a week-long thing.
Yeah.
But I came that Friday for Sinulog. I hadn't been to Sinulog since 2018.
Mm-hmm.
I was actually going to come to Sinulog in 2020 when you first arrived here.
Right.
But they were talking about locking everything down. That was the beginning of COVID, and I was like, I'm not going to spend this money and then have to evacuate the country, so
Right.
didn't come. But I'm hopping all around the Philippines, probably 7 or 8 different locations.
That was your plan for this trip?
That was my plan for this trip. Went to Coron the Monday after Sinulog.
Mm-hmm.
Was going to be there for 2 days, and then this happened.
Gotcha. So I know nobody wants to talk about what happened, but come on, give us the gossip.
All right.
Did you break an arm? What happened here?
Fractured and dislocated my elbow. How? Being impatient. It was totally my fault. It was no one else's fault. Getting off a banca, which is the traditional Filipino boat that if you go on tours anywhere in the country, you'll be riding on. Just finished eating lunch, Coron, late lunch. There is a dock, like cement dock, and the boat, the nose of the banca points kind of up. As I was stepping off, I should have waited for someone, but I didn't. My fault. Impatient
American. I get
That's
it.
That's exactly what it is.
I'm that guy often.
It is. That's exactly what happened, and I take ownership for it. But as I was stepping off, a little wave came in and raised.
So right, just say it's a big wave. You could exaggerate a big tsunami wave.
Tsunami came and.
Okay.
So no, but not a very big wave at all, but just a tide coming in and out. As I was stepping off, it raised the boat up. So if you imagine trying to step onto something, and then what you're on raises up, you fall over.
I gotcha.
So
I gotcha. Okay.
Instead of falling on my face, I kind of turned to the side and I fell on my elbow, and elbow took the brunt of the fall. So
oof.
Yeah.
That hurts just hearing about.
It hurt, and it's really a bigger pain to my ego than anything else. But yeah, I'll be all right.
I get it. So you're in Coron, and I'm guessing there's not too many hospitals there. What did you do?
The boat crew was absolutely fantastic. I wasn't staying in Coron town. We were staying out in a villa. The hospital in Coron is more like a triage.
Okay.
So we went to Culion Island, which sits between Coron town and Coron Island.
Okay.
They had a pretty decent hospital. So they took care of me. They didn't have a bone specialist there, so just the doctor on call. They x-rayed it, showed me what happened. I'm kind of like, oh my God, really? This is the end of my trip, but no, they were magnificent.
So, I know that there was some more steps there, but first, backing up, did you have travel insurance?
No.
All right.
Usually, it's like a what do I want to say? A bunch of incidents led up to this moment I didn't have traveler's insurance. Normally I do, and normally I'm forced to do it, but the Philippines does not require it. I promise you. I looked at the site that I normally go to the insurance company that I normally go to, priced it all out, and for whatever reason I got sidetracked and didn't do it.
Yeah, I understand. Mostly I don't either, but hearing you talk about this today, I will always get it. You know, when I went to Thailand recently, it's another country, they make you get it. And I think I spent maybe 10 or 12 dollars for the week. It's pretty reasonable.
Yeah, it's very reasonable. There's no reason. If you can't afford the traveler's insurance, you can't afford to travel. Honestly, make it a part of your steps when you're planning the trip. Set aside that money, put it on a credit card, do whatever you have to, but get traveler's insurance because this is extremely expensive. I can imagine if I was in another country where the medical structure of the medical
cost or
was even more expensive. My original x-rays and everything at the hospital in Kulian came to like $30. That includes everything. My prescriptions.
So that was giving you a sling and x-rays, all of that?
It was, they wrapped it, sling, x-rays, everything.
About $30.
$30.
So that's a really an incredible price. I'll ask you more in a little bit about the cost of what came after that. But tell us next step. So you're in Coron, you've found a place where there was a hospital, but they didn't have a bone specialist.
Right.
So did you travel to somewhere else where they did, or what'd you do from there?
No. I was originally flying back to Cebu the next day, just as a layover or change planes to go to Mindanao.
Right.
But Cebu being the second largest city in the Philippines, I was like, let me just stop in Cebu and get this taken care of.
So how did you do that? Because you're traveling to another country, and so it's not like you have your specific hospital with your insurance in the U.S. How'd you find a decent hospital? Did you ask around, or what was the process for that?
Google.
All right, Google's your friend.
Google saves you. Basically, I just put in Cebu specialist. You just kind of scroll until you see something that you're comfortable with.
Sure.
And everything kept leading back to medical firm or whatever you want to call it here in Cebu.
So you met with some type of specialist here?
Yes. We were originally supposed to get a referral from the hospital in Kulian. They kind of dropped the ball.
Right.
And I didn't want to wait I didn't want to add days to this because I was in pain. I didn't want to risk missing my flight back or anything like that.
Yeah.
So I just let's get this taken care of now.
Sure. So how did you find the specialist was? Did they seem competent, or were you nervous about their advice? And how much did they charge you?
They seemed competent. When I went there, you tell them what your issue is, and then they assign you to that particular specialist, whether it be back specialist, podiatrist, or whatever. Whatever.
So very similar to a U.S. process.
Yeah, it's the same as it would be in the U.S. Found this doctor. He sent me downstairs to the X-rays. I think those X-rays were like $12 or something like that, maybe 15. Of course, in pesos. So in my brain, I always think dollars. But yeah, brought the X-rays back upstairs. He looked at them. He said XYZ. He was very straightforward, very competent. He was able to explain to me in layman's terms what to expect, even price wise.
Sure.
Because that was a main concern of mine. Like, am I going to have enough? I don't have traveler's insurance, so am I going to have enough to cover this? Because I really don't want, as an American, you think the Americans are going our best, which isn't always true. A lot of times it's not true. You would think, I'm going to go back home and get this taken care of. I'm not going to assume that you would know, but in the United States, this would cost 20 times the amount as it would be here in the Philippines. So in my mind, I'm like, I'm not paying $30,000 for this procedure. So
So at first you were guessing because you really had no idea what something would cost here.
yeah, I mean, well, I knew because I've had other friends and family who like live here. Have had medical procedures, births, what have you, and I knew it was going to be significantly less expensive here.
Sure. Well, what did they do actually? So you went to the specialist, and then did you have surgery here?
Yeah. So what happened was he was a surgeon who I spoke with the original consultation. He gave me the layout. This is what you need. This is what you need. This is what you need. I recommend this. And of course, my brain, how much is it going to cost? He broke down the cost. He broke down the prices. I'm like, this hurts my pocket, but I really have no choice because I'm not going back to the U.S. and then paying 20 times as much.
Yeah.
So he had me admitted to the hospital the next day. If anyone knows about the Philippines, you know there's a lot of red tape, a lot of bureaucracy. They're not the quickest when it comes to a lot of things.
Sure.
The admission process took all day. We got there 8 o'clock in the morning. I think I got admitted 7 p.m.
Right. Yes.
Yeah, and there are certain things, redundancies, that I noticed. Like they wanted to take more x-rays. I'm like, you have 2 sets of x-rays now. People need to eat. I understand that. They're going to, I don't want to say nickel and dime you, but they're going to get what they can out of you. And it's not like in the U.S. where it's going to put you into bankruptcy or anything like that. So I didn't really complain. Like,
well, it's probably the time. I mean, 11-hour check-in.
Yeah.
That's, you know, I'm sure that drove you a little bit crazy.
It did.
And I think even for the Philippines, that's pretty long. So, you know, I've been through similar experiences where I've been in the hospital with others, and, you know, it's taken 3 to 4 hours for those type of things, which even that feels long. So
yeah, then to be admitted, I had to get CAT scan, more x-rays, MRI. I think that's all that. And then they wanted to charge, I think it was like $100 for me and they call it watcher, or whoever I have with me.
Sure.
For PCR tests for nose swab. I'm like, and it's required. So I'm like, okay.
Right. This
is how your hospital is making their money. I'm like, I have no choice.
Sure. So overall, you know, from check-in till the time you left, how many days were you in the hospital? 5.
Okay.
So you could just imagine if you were in a U.S. hospital, just staying there for 5 days would be a fortune.
I'd be filing bankruptcy now.
Probably. Yeah. So they did a surgery?
Yeah, I actually had to have a stainless piece put in because the way I fell on my elbow, the bone at the tip of your elbow was actually shattered.
Oof.
So I'm bionic now.
Yeah, that's why I'm calling you Bionic now.
Yeah, I'm like $6 million man now.
It's your new name.
Right.
So at least a 6 million peso man now for sure. So I mean, it's a pretty big deal. 5-day hospital stay, turn into at least, you know, partially the Bionic man. So how much did that cost over here?
With the implant, it added $1,000. It ended up being like $5,300.
Okay.
Which would have been probably 1 day in the U.S. hospital.
I think a really cheap U.S. hospital, you know, it would have been that. So obviously it's a lot of money. You know, that's painful. But 5 days in a hospital with, you know, a replacement like that, you really could see just dramatically different costs between here and the U.S.
Absolutely. And I was telling the staff there, they would come in and check on me or whatever, and they would ask me different things about the U.S. and they were asking me how the medical is set up in the U.S. and like it's super expensive. And I was explaining to them like the price breakdown of what I would get there and there. Their minds were blown. They just could not understand why things were so expensive. I could explain it to you, but it would take hours.
Yeah, I remember talking to a friend of mine that was, you know, at a hospital in Northern California, you know, in management there, and you know, we got a tour of the hospital, and one of the staff was pointing out the hospital beds that cost like $100,000 just for one bed.
One bed.
And I was giving my friend a hard time. I'm like, no wonder it's so expensive. You know, you guys are buying these beds that are like, you know, you could buy a house in some states for what the cost of that bed was. And so
Advil cost $100 in the hospital.
yes, but what he was saying is that the reason why it's so expensive is, you know, vendors have to get on the approved list, and by the time they do, they could charge whatever they want. A hospital just can't go out bargain shopping for the lowest, you know, cost hospital beds. So we have so many processes in the U.S. that are crazy. I should say, though, you know, what you paid would be as expensive, you know, probably for most Filipinos as well, you know. So you paid about 250,000 pesos. That would be an enormous expense, you know, for people over here. And just, you know, shows how important it is for, you know, people here to have PhilHealth, which is kind of their Medicare, and you know, private insurance, which, you know, similar to, you know, how it was, you know, in the U.S., you know, it becomes prohibitive for people as well.
Absolutely, and it made me think how blessed I was that I had access to the money, because I was just thinking, if I was a Filipino and this happened to me,
that's a lot of money for most people. Yeah, it would probably
be impossible.
Yeah, I mean, it would be probably the equivalent of dollars. You know, it'd be like if an American got a $250,000, you know, dollar, you know, bill, that would be like getting a 250,000, you know, peso beer for a lot of people.
It would be impossible. They would just have to live with the injury. I mean, it's a sad situation.
Yeah, I mean, with the pandemic over here, you know, I really saw people, you know, were really wearing masks and face shields, and, you know, really, really concerned that they didn't wind up with COVID and having to go to the hospital. And at first I thought, come on, guys, you know, the numbers are low, and, you know, what are you so worried about? But I think for a lot of people, you know, if they didn't have private health care, they didn't want to get a hospital bill.
The COVID test was $100. So the PCR test was $100.
Yeah.
In the U.S., you can go to CVS, go to Rite Aid, go to Walgreens, and get a free test.
It's crazy, right?
It's like, so, it's like average Filipino is not going to be able to afford $100 for a test, and then it comes up negative, you'll be pissed. Like,
absolutely.
You'll be mad.
Yeah. So, I really appreciate you sharing your, you know, experience of what it's like to, you know, go to a hospital, have to deal with specialists, and everything else. And everything else here. You know, I hope nobody watching ever has to go through what you went in any country, but overall, it seems like, you know, everything went pretty smoothly. How's the recovery been so far?
Amazing. It's like post-op, it's like my range of motion has improved like 80%.
Wow.
Like, because it was so dislocated, it was just a loose joint. It was just, I had no control over it. It was just, if I didn't have a sling, it would just be hanging, and it would,
Wow. So very serious. And it's been about how long since the surgery now?
This is my third day, so 2.5 days since surgery. It was late Wednesday. I want to say Wednesday.
All right, and we're Friday now, so really just couple of days. So that's really positive.
It's great. Get insurance, please. learn from my mistakes.
So this is your final words to people.
Yeah, this is my final word. Learn from my mistakes. Learn from my pain. If you can't afford the insurance, don't take the trip.
Yeah.
Simple.
And it's really super, you know, cheap for most places. You know, probably under $20. You know,
absolutely. I think when I went to Paris 3 or 4 months ago, it was like $40 or something.
Yeah. When I went to Thailand, it was $12 for me, $8 for my wife. And my wife said, "How come yours is more expensive?" I said, "Well, because I'm a little bit older than you." And she was just cracking up. But you know, it's even at $40. You know, I'm also going to learn from your lesson, because the only reason why I got it in Thailand is because you had to get there. But Yeah, definitely, good lesson for all of us. Get some travel insurance.
Absolutely.
Well, guys, make sure and check out some other videos Kyle's been on here. We recently had a video just within a week before this one about how he travels to the Philippines and a lot of other countries. Make sure and check out his socials below in the description as well. And as always, guys, thank you so much for taking the time to watch. And take care.
Yeah, take care. Get insurance.